Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. It's the Rudiment of Music ABRSM Grade 3 and today's lesson will be considering tonic triads for major and minor scales with up to 4 sharps and up to 4 flats. My name is Lotana Ernest and I will be taking you on this class. Our learning objectives are as follows. We'll revisit tonic triads. We've done this already in grade 1 as well as in grade 2. We'll just do a bit of revision so that we can understand in case if we have forgotten. Then we'll construct the tonic triads for the key of the E and A flat major. We've done these scales in the earlier lessons, so if you've not done the construction of E and A flat major, please go back and revisit and listen to or watch the previous lessons where we treated these major scales. And in our last class, if you remember, we started with the minor scales and we looked at a whole lot of minor scales. So we'll be constructing tonic triad for these minor scales, both the harmonic and the melodic version, up to 4 sharps and flats. Now let's get into it. What are triads? Triads is a chord composed of 3 notes stacked in third. So what that means is that you have 3 notes, either they are stacked on top, one on top the other, or they are kind of played successively. In that case, you have like a melodic triad, or if they are stacked on top of each other, you have an harmonic triad. We've done all these things in grade 1, I believe. So you have the root, then you have the third note, and then you have the 5th note. So you skip the 2nd and the 4th note. So you have root, which is the 1st note, and then you have the 3rd note, and then you have the 5th note. Triads on the tonic key, and you can build triads on any degree of note. You can build it on the 1st note, you can build it on the 2nd note, you can build it on the 3rd note, the 6th note, or even to the 7th note. But if you build your triad on the tonic, that is on the key notes, you build your tonic on the key note. It's called a tonic triad. So that means the 1st note is the tonic, then you have the 3rd note, and you have the 5th note. Okay. These are things these are kind of revision. We've done all this before, but one thing I want to introduce here is triads can be major, minor, augmented, or diminished. We're going to look at all these in subsequent grades, maybe in grade 4 and grade 5. But for today, we're going to focus on major and minor triads. Basically, major and minor tonic triads. So the tonic triad in a major scale is a major triad. So any major scale you have, if you build a triad on the tonic of that major scale, it's a major triad because it consists of a major third and a perfect fifth. The distance between the interval between the tonic and the 3rd note is a major third. Then the distance between the tonic and the 5th note is a perfect fifth. Now I don't want you to disturb yourself about what a major third is now or what a perfect fifth is now. That is what we'll be dealing with in a subsequent class in lesson 8, I believe, where we'll be looking at intervals. You understand what a major third means and what a perfect fifth means. But just have that at the back of your mind that the reason why we say the tonic triad of a major scale is a major triad is because it consists of a major third, that's the interval between the tonic and the 3rd note, and it consists of a perfect fifth, that is the interval between the tonic and the 5th note that makes up that triad. For the minor scale, it's the tonic triad in a minor scale, whether it's harmonic or melodic, it doesn't matter, it's a minor triad. And it's minor because it consists of a minor third. So the distance or the interval between the tonic triad, the tonic note for that minor scale, and the 3rd note is a minor third. However, the interval between the tonic, the key note, and the 5th note is a perfect fifth. So I've introduced 3 forms of intervals here now: major third, minor third, perfect fifth. These are things you are going to consider in the subsequent classes. So please don't miss the subsequent class. Now let's go straight into it. Tonic triads for E and A flat major. I'm not going to waste too much time here because it's the same way you form the tonic triad for C major, for D major, for F major that we've done in grade 1 and grade 2. It's the same principle. So if you don't understand the principle I will ask you to revisit grade 1 and grade 2 and deal with the tonic triads there first before coming to grade 3, because I'm not going to go into details about what all those derivations mean, but I'll just show you what the notes that forms the tonic triads for these keys are and how they are represented on the stave. The tonic triad of E major is made up of, remember the tonic triad is the tonic, the third, and the fifth. So if you write out the scale of E major, the first note is E, the third note is G sharp, and the fifth note is B, and that forms the tonic triad for E major. And you can represent them, you can represent them on the stave either using key signature. In this case, you see that this is the scale of E major because it has 4 sharps, and then you could see that E is the first note, that's the tonic, and then the third note is G sharp, but you'll see that the G there is not sharpened on the note, but because it has been sharpened at the key signature, you will see that we already have the key signature here, so this has been sharpened here. Okay, so we don't need to sharpen this G anymore because it has been sharpened there, and then you have your B. All right, but let's assume that we don't have this key signature, because in the exam you could be given a stave without a key signature, and then you'll be asked to identify the tonic triad, or you could be given with key signature. So you should just be very careful. If there are no key signatures, then you have to really add the accidentals where they come in, as we see in this case. In this case, this is still the same case of a tonic triad for E major. This is E, and then this is G sharp. You see the G now has been sharpened because here we do not have any key signature, so the G has to be sharpened, and then this is the B. So this is what you call a melodic triad, and this is what you call an harmonic triad, because the 3 notes are played simultaneously. While for the melodic triad, the 3 notes are placed sequentially. But that doesn't, you don't need to bother about that in your exam. This is just kind of pedagogy. The tonic triad for A flat major is the first note of A flat, which is A flat, and then the third note, which is C, and then the fifth note if you write out the scale of A flat, is E flat in the construction. So we've constructed the scale of A flat, pick the first, the third, and the fifth note. And then this is what you have on the stave. Remember, this is with key signature. You don't need to flatten your A and your E. They've already been flattened for you in the key signature. But without the key signature, please, you need to add the flats where they occur. So the A flat, and then the C and the E flat. So that's just the difference. And I've written here that you should note that if there are key signatures, then you have to recognize the sharp or flattened note. That should be off, or rather, that's a mistake. Sharp or flattened notes, depending on what. So, like we get an example here, now you have the key signature here, so whatever note is flattened here, you don't need to flatten it here again because it has already been represented here. Now let's go to the minor scale. For the minor scale, it's the same thing, tonic triads we did in grade 2 when we started the the tonic triad for A minor and the other minors we looked at. The first thing I want to say here is to bring out the fact that the tonic triad for a minor scale is the same whether it's harmonic or melodic. This is because you're only dealing with the first note, the third note, and the fifth note. All the changes that happen between an harmonic and a melodic minor happens within the 6th and the 7th note. So in this case, we're not getting to the 6th and 7th, so we're only dealing with the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes, and these 3 notes are the same whether it's for an harmonic minor or for a melodic minor. So let's get straight into it. B minor, the scale, if you write out the scale of B minor, we did it last week. You write out the scale of B minor. The tonic triad is the first note B, the 3rd degree D, and the 5th degree F sharp. Now you can represent that on the key signature you're given. Remember, a minor scale takes the key signature of its relative major. We did that in our last class. So the relative major of a B minor is D major. That's why it takes this the 2 sharps. So this is the key signature of D major, and it's also the key signature of B minor. And if you look at this key signature now, if you are asked what is you are given this note and they say this is a triad, right? So what is this triad? It's a tonic triad. and then you look at this note. The first note there is B, so this is a B, okay? You might be tempted to say, oh, maybe there is a mistake, this is supposed to be D, but no, it's B minor, because B is the relative minor of D, so it's B, D, and F sharp. There is no sharp in here because it has already been sharpened here, as you have in the key signature. However, if you don't have a key signature, this is, I decided to use the bass clef now, so that you know that it could be examined in the treble clef or in the bass clef. If there are no key signatures, then you just have to put the sharps where they occur: B, D, and F sharp, and this gives you that. So please note that when you are told a tonic triad, it means you are given 3 notes and you are told that they are tonic triads, then it means that the first note, the root note, is the tonic. So in this case now, B, it means this is the scale of B minor, because the tonic is the name of the key, right? So let's go to the next one. F sharp minor. F sharp minor, if you write out the scale, the first note is F sharp, third A, and the last note, the fifth note that makes up the tonic triad, is C sharp. And in similar fashion, you can represent them, you know, either using key signature, where the sharps have already been, the notes have already been sharpened in the key signature, they don't need to appear here again, but or you could do them in an accidental fashion and just remove the key signature and then add the accidentals as they occur in F and in C and on C. Okay, they'll want to look at the tonic triad for C sharp minor. You write out the scale of C sharp minor. The first note is C sharp, then E, and the fifth note is G sharp. Also, you could write out the triads with key signature, and C and G are already sharpened here, because you know this is the relative. This is the C sharp minor is the relative minor of E major, which we just did, E major. So you see, this is 4 sharps, E major and C sharp minor. So C sharp and F and G sharp have been sharpened here already, so you don't need to sharpen them here again as they occur. However, if we don't have the key signature, then you have to add the sharps as they occur. So the same thing I just repeated there for emphasis. Now let's go on. We've looked at tonic triads for major scales up to 4 sharps and 4 flats. For minor scales up to 4 sharps. So we've looked at 2 sharps, 3 sharps, 4 sharps. Now I want to look at tonic triad for minor scales up to 4 flats, from 2 flats, 3 flats, and 4 flats. The tonic triad for B minor, if you write out the scale of B minor, is, oh sorry, this is wrong. Sincere apologies, please. I have to correct it. I'll correct it now. The tonic triad for G minor, sorry, this should be G minor, apologies, not B minor, G minor. Change it, please. Yes, the tonic triad for G minor is G, B flat, and D. That is, if you write out the scale of G minor, you have G, you have B flat, you have D. Okay, so, and you can represent it like this. Okay, remember, if you the relative major for G minor is B flat major. And that's why you have 2 flats. And these 2 flats, B has already been flattened there. So when you are writing the relative the tonic triad for G minor, you don't need to flatten the B anymore, since you have them on the key signature. But if you don't have it on the key signature and you are working with accidentals, then you have to put the flat where they occur beside the B. The same thing for C minor. C minor, you have C first note, E flat third note, and G fifth note, and then you can represent them on the stave. This is the key signature for C minor. You know, the same key signature as E flat major, being the relative major, because the flats are already here. E is already flat in there. You don't need to include them in your tonic triads. But in this case here, you have to include it because you are dealing with accidentals and no key signature. And lastly, a tonic triad for F minor is F, A flat, and C. Remember, tonic triad is first, third, and fifth notes of a scale. And the same way, this is 4 flats. Relative major of F minor is A flat, so you have 4 flats, and then you have your you have your tonic triads. You don't need to add any accidentals here because they are already represented here. However, where you don't have the accidentals, the key signatures, then you have to add the accidentals as they occur. And I had the same note here about key signature, which I've just bought. So in summary, to wrap up, tonic triads could be major or minor depending on the scale. If it's a major scale, then the tonic triad is a major triad. If it's a minor scale, then the tonic triad is a minor triad. Sharps and flats in the triads could be represented in the key signature or as accidentals, like I've shown you. If the sharps and the flats are on the key signature, then you don't need to still make them follow the notes on the triad because already they've been represented on the key signature. But if they are not on the key signature, then they have to be as accidentals before the notes they are sharpening or flattening. And also harmonic and melodic minor scales share the same tonic triads. With that, we come to the end of today's class. Now the assessment or the assignment for this lesson is in exercise 5, page 20 of our ABRSM workbook. Exercise 5, page 20, ABRSM workbook 3. So thank you all for listening and God bless you.